Awesome. So as folks tune in, I just want to welcome everyone to Manny's Super Civic Cyber Conversations. And I want to thank everyone who's tuning in now. And just say that Manny's is a physical civic space and we are closed, but the work is not over. And so we are providing this opportunity to civically engage the public and bring really incredible people to you through the internet and through these digital conversations. So thank you for tuning in. I'm now going to hand it over to Amanda from McSweeney's to kind of lead us in what's going to happen today. So thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Deb Eggers and Lois and Diana and the whole team.
Manny, thanks for inviting all of us, and more importantly, thanks for all that you're doing for the mission right now and for San Francisco and all of us. It's really amazing.
My pleasure.
As you said, today we're going to see some live drawing with Dave Eggers, who is here. He's already drawing. Manny, can you tell everybody how to pin Dave's window so that...
Yes. So you go to speaker view and operator, let me know if I get this wrong. You go to speaker view and then you can actually click on the top right-hand corner. There's a button that says pin. So everyone who's tuning in, if you want to watch Dave draw, you can just click on his, go to speaker view, and then on the top right-hand corner, type pin.
Great. So I'm Amanda from McSweeney's. I'm just going to be here for a minute. I wanted to make sure we introduce everyone who's here. You're seeing Dave. He's already started drawing. Maybe Dave can wave. Hello. Perfect. And Dave is founder of McSweeney's and co-founder of the Youth Writing Centers and the 826 Network, and is also founder of ScholarMatch, which is why we're here today. Diana Adamson, can you wave? Diana is our wonderful executive director of ScholarMatch, and we're also joined by Luis Mendez, who is an alum of the ScholarMatch program and is on the staff now. So I think the three of you are going to speak for a little bit, and then I'll pop back in and do some questions from the audience. And
yeah, thank you, Amanda. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah.
This is my first Zoom call, so bear with me here. I'm only doing it because Manny asked, and no one said Manny. Diana?
Yes.
Oh, there you are. I thought that, 826 Valencia has been around about 20 years and center behind the store. So I thought this would be a parallel front. We would talk about college access while watching drawings of dogs and chickens occur. I know that this is a stressful time for everybody, and for me personally, cathartic, and it's meditative, and it's calmed me during these question Diana and Louis while drawing, and they can sort of talk about where college access is right now, the state of things for all of their students at this very unprecedented time, how they're making sure that the students that have worked so hard to get into college stay and have their questions and concerns answered. So Diana, can you give us a little bit of an overview of where things are for college students in this semester, especially the first in their family, low-income students that ScholarMatch serves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Dave. So we're working with students who are in high school and also in college, and I think both groups are really impacted right now. On the college side, it's been very devastating for a lot of students who had to leave suddenly. The campuses were closed, and in some cases, they only had a day or two's notice to vacate. And not only did they have to leave suddenly, but then they had to return home and kind of quickly transition to learning online and all of their classes becoming taught online, but without all the academic supports that should be available to them on the campus itself because it's closed. separate from the academic challenges, there's just huge needs in the students' personal lives, because in many cases, our students are returning home to crowded homes that don't necessarily have good Wi-Fi. I may be cutting out as I say that because it's been happening all day, as I'm sure everybody's been experiencing. And, you know, our students, it's really hard to learn in that environment. One of the things that ScholarMatch does to support them is we provide emergency funding. And I went to look at like what are some of the needs that we're seeing from our students in the emergency funds. And there's a wide range of things. I pulled a couple of them up. Dave, I don't know if you want to go into those now or wait till later, but I'm happy to share some of the details from those.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So I just pulled out a handful because I think it kind of really paints the picture of the range of needs right now for our students. So, you know, the first one that I looked at was a $243 request for a Chromebook from a student because his computer's broken and now everything, you know, is online and he doesn't have access to a computer lab. Another student, Ben, who goes to CSU Fullerton, asked for $51, and the amount kind of caught my eye. And so I went to read like, what was this for? And his school closure was very quick and he couldn't leave with his stuff because he didn't have his car on campus. And so he took public transportation home and needs to go back to pick up his stuff. And he was an RA on campus. And so he was using his money to help support his family, but now he's not getting paid. And in order to get the family car working, they needed to buy a part. And so the $51 was actually for a car part, which his dad was going to install so that they could go back to the school.
You know, Diana, ScholarMatch started in part because I used to teach a class at 826 Valencia. I should say to everybody that ScholarMatch is at 849 Valencia, about 3 blocks down the street from Manny's, and serves students in San Francisco and LA primarily, but also serves students around the country virtually. And one of the things I noticed, and I know that you know firsthand, Diana and Lewis, is just how sometimes one unexpected expense can really derail somebody's college hopes. Can you talk about what you learned about just how a few $1,000s here and there can mean the difference between graduation or dropping out?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when people think of the cost of college, it's hard not to get drawn into the price of the tuition as like the biggest barrier. But I think in reality, it is a barrier to getting in, certainly. But often it's not the reason students leave. A lot of times the reason students actually leave campus once they're there is because of something like this. It's because like a tragedy hits their family, and we're seeing it like in all of these emergency expenses. There's requests that are saying, my mom was laid off, my dad was laid off, my dad used to work 6 days a week, now he's working 1 day a week, I need to support him. And that's the kind of thing that prevents a student from being able to finish their degree, because there's these other challenges in their life. And sometimes what we're talking about is a month of bridging the gap of rent, or a particular medical bill from an incident that, you know, an accident that no one was ready for. So on average, you know, what we do is we earmark about $500 a year per student for emergency requests. Not every student uses it. In fact, I mean, pretty much every student will use it at some point, but they don't use it every year necessarily. I think this year obviously will be an exception, but the average request size of these grants is like $300. So we're not talking about thousands of dollars. But if you don't have access to that $300, that $400 when you need it, it can be the thing that derails the student's education completely because they feel like they need to go and chip in.
What are you finding now with COVID? You mentioned that a lot of the parents have lost their jobs. What are you finding from the students in terms of, I remember my students very often would talk about the guilt that they've experienced going off to college, sometimes a few states away when they're needed at home, and this feeling that they were more useful contributing to the household income rather than, in a way, drawing from it by being, a college student full time. Can you talk about that? Must be
Yeah.
exquisitely acute right now with COVID, where feeling like, how could I be studying, being a full-time student when I'm needed to pull my weight at home?
Mm-hmm. I think it boils down to this tension between, short-term needs and like a longer-term view of what, what is needed there. And it's always a tension. And I think usually that conversation surfaces more for the high school senior who's getting ready to leave the family and it feels like they can't leave. And a lot of times we see that conversation happen there. And what we're concerned about this year is that that conversation may be affecting every student and all of the students who are now home and their decision to just return to campus, which will be a new challenge for everyone, because it's very hard to argue with that when you have a family that's suffering and you want to help them. So I don't think it's an easy situation. And I think I don't think we've even dealt with it yet because it's all still new. And I think the summer is going to be a really important time for our students to stay on track and to keep their motivation up to return in the fall, and hoping the schools open in the fall.
Louis, we've known each other maybe 3 years now. Can you talk about your entry, the way you got ScholarMatch? I always like to have 826 and ScholarMatch as street level, visible services where anyone can walk in at any time and get help on whatever schedule they're on. And that sort of worked to be able to meet you and provide some help for you when you were trying to finish your degree. Can you talk about how we met you?
And I felt that it really did work in my favor, ScholarMatch having a storefront, because our first interaction happened by chance. I grew up in the neighborhood, and it was the summer before I transferred to UC Davis. Just walking by in the neighborhood and seeing the storefront, seeing a nonprofit that offers support, offers resources for low-income college students, it caught my eye. I walked in and just wanted to see how I could fit into what was going on, seeing how I could be a part of what ScholarMatch had going on. So yeah, it really happened by chance.
Well, you had gotten credits toward a degree, but you hadn't enrolled in a 4-year yet. Is that right? And you ended up getting a degree at UC Davis. Can you talk about sort of what obstacles stood in your way?
Yeah, so it was the transition between community college and the 4-year university, UC Davis. That's when I met ScholarMatch. And as far as barriers, I think one was financial for sure. I mean, that was an obvious barrier. So at the time, I was still, while being a student, before the scholarship came, I was taking trips to San Francisco to stay with my family for the weekend so that I could drive for Uber for the weekend. I would drive Friday, Saturday nights, stay up until the 2 a.m. surge, go back to Davis on a Sunday after losing sleep. And the next weekend, sometimes I'll do it all over again. So, but when the scholarship came, of course, it alleviated the pressure. I didn't have to make those trips as much. But yeah, that was a bigger barrier.
Well, one of the things that when we started ScholarMatch a lot of years ago was because I kept meeting students that did not Oh, they weren't aware of sort of all the opportunities there were, all the scholarships, all the financial aid, all of the colleges that might really want them, whether that college is UC Davis or if it's Ohio Wesleyan. And one of the things that Diana and her team really perfected, and they're still perfecting, but I think that they're sort of leaders in the field, is creating this team of college coaches that works with students as soon as sophomore year in high school, all the way through graduation and to their first job. And this is an idea of the college coach, of having somebody that's got your back, that can answer questions, that can sort of coach you through a difficult moment or a financial question, and also just make sure that any of these blips and bumps that might derail that college career, don't have that effect. And I went to a giant state school with 42,000 students, and I'd say about a third of my friends didn't graduate. And it was so easy to drop out because you're not noticed in a giant environment like that. And I know Davis is big too. Louis, can you sort of talk about what it means to have somebody that's kind of got your back and cheering you on and making sure that you don't quit?
Yeah, it means a lot. To begin, for someone like me, at least in my case, I can only speak on my story. Growing up in a low-income single-parent household, I never had a coach. I never had someone hands-on and deeply involved in my academic journey. Up until that point, it's me pushing and motivating and rooting myself on. And so to have somebody step in, roll up their sleeves and help me add some additional structure to what I was doing, and add some additional support, hands-on accountability, and overall just someone who knows and understands and can relate to the journey that I was on. Yeah, it made a difference. Again, just the additional support and additional structure that a coach provides. Just knowing that I have to I have to set goals with someone. I have to report back to someone, and of course, I was internally motivated, but to have somebody else just keep me going and make sure, just help me stay aligned and on track, and give me the outside perspective, I would say it made a great difference.
Thanks, Louis. We're recruiting new coaches right now because there's two main needs right now. Those to coach the matriculating seniors, those that are going off to college into the most uncertain moment in our lifetimes, to go to college. And then also we need counselors, career counselors, to help those graduating college students who are going into probably the most uncertain job market of our time. Diana, can you talk about how you use these college coaches, and what do they do? Like they're working via FaceTime and Skype, so it's like it works to everybody's advantage right now because we're all home stuck anyway. Can you talk about the program and how people can get involved?
Yeah, sure. We have two kinds of coaches, like Dave said. So the college coach, this is a little counterintuitive, but the college coach actually works with the high school students because they are coaching them on how to get into college. And it's a 1-year commitment. You're paired with a high school senior for the duration of their their academic year. And it's really game changing for these students, because you'll have students that are college potential for sure, and they want to go, they have all the right ingredients, they just don't have the knowledge of how to navigate that process. And so we train volunteers. We also recruit a lot of folks that are writers, because a large part of the application is the essay. And also people who do it professionally, retired teachers. It's a wide range of folks, but you don't have to have expertise to do it, because we have online trainings, and we'll give you all the tools that you need. And so folks can sign up for a year. You get matched with one student or two. And in that year, they help students apply, build their college list, write their essay, apply for financial aid. And then as it comes around to the spring, which is the critical time we're in now, you're evaluating their offers. And it's trickier than one might think because there's no standardization behind the financial aid packages. And so it can be very hard to sort of detangle all the details and compare apples to apples. And so the coach is really helpful in helping students sort that all out and make that decision. And then at this stage in the year, they're really just a huge cheerleader to make sure they don't lose their focus and their momentum to go. And I think in a climate like this, that's one of our biggest concerns. And so I know our coaches are stepping up and our students are really leaning on them. And just this week, actually, I got a letter from one of our coaches named Lisa in San Diego, and she sent us a letter that she had received from her high school senior. And it was, this 2-page, like beautiful work of art that her high school senior had written, just explaining all of the difference that Lisa had made in her life and how she would have given up so many times in the process because it's overwhelming. The paperwork is overwhelming, the process is overwhelming, but she knew Lisa wasn't going to let her do that. And so she was just thanking her for the year that they've had together and how excited she is to go on. The other kind of coach we have is a career coach, like Dave mentioned. And this is a shorter term engagement. And it really is for our college students who are searching for internships and jobs and trying to gain some of those really critical skills as they prepare to launch their career. So these volunteers, it's a less of a time commitment. It's a few month engagement, and you're paired with one college student. We try to match by industry since there's a lot of insider knowledge there that our coaches can support students with. And then it's really just helping them on their career journey.
And how many times would they have contact in a program like that?
So for the college coaches, they're going to work together for about 12 months, and it's all virtual. So I think one thing that we are fortunate is that in this whole change of atmosphere, it's not actually affecting most of our programming that much. I mean, of course, people are affected in other ways, but the program itself can pretty much march on. And I think that is a key point here for anyone that's looking for a way to give back, because we do need coaches and you can do it on quarantine. So in terms to answer your question, time commitment, it's a year for the college coaches and they'll interact monthly, usually several times a month. It varies. In certain months it might be weekly, in other months it might only be one contact a month, just depending on where they are in the cycle. For the career coaches, it's a little shorter term and a little more intense. So it's about 3 to 4 months that they'll be paired together, and they have specific objectives. It's like find the internship, build the LinkedIn profile, polish the resume. So it's, they're kind of collaborating on this like set of tasks.
Yeah, and just to chime in a little bit on that, I went through the program to get matched with the career coach, and that was 4 years ago. To this day, I have my career coach on LinkedIn, and we still stay in touch. And about 2 years out from graduation, I messaged him because I was looking to transition jobs. I didn't know where to start. I said, "Hey, Dan, can we meet? I just wanted to get some advice, some input." He invited me to the office. So I say all that, and he helped me land the interview at his company, actually. But I say all that to say that it's very beneficial. It means a lot. It makes a total great difference.
Well, it becomes a friendship, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's mentorship, it's friendship, it's guidance, but it's like collapsing the space between you and somebody in their mid-career, or even somebody who's new, who, if you've graduated 2 years from UC Berkeley and you're in biomedicine or biotech in San Francisco even, and you want to explain how you got that job, what steps there were to somebody graduating this coming year, you can't imagine how useful your perspective is. And it could be a handful of FaceTime difference between somebody landing that first interview or, struggling without a roadmap. So, we're at the point where I think if there's any questions that have come through, Amanda.
I just popped up because we do have a question from Dan, who's been watching, and he asked about how a student qualifies for ScholarMatch programs. Can you speak to that, Diana?
I can. So our program officially starts junior year. We'll do outreach to schools earlier than that, and we try to really spread the word around town. But the main way is for students just to sign up online. So junior, there's an interest form they can fill out if they're earlier, if they're a sophomore or a freshman, and then we'll contact them when they're in the right year. But for students who are juniors right now, we're taking students, the application's online, and we'll take students as long as we have capacity. So we serve students in the San Francisco area, the LA area, and then we also have a partnership that brings some students into us from all across the country. So we'll serve about 1,500 students this year on that and on the high school side. And then just the college program, you're progressing through from one side to the other. So really the entry point is in that high school phase.
Before I forget, if anybody wants to learn more, you go to ScholarMatch.org. On a side note, if anybody wants to buy drawings like this, all the money goes to, or all my side of it goes to ScholarMatch. I've been doing this for a lot of years, doing silly drawings that you can put in your bathroom or shed, and the money goes to ScholarMatch. Go to sfelectricworks.com if you want to learn more about that, or you can email Noah at sfelectricworks. Amanda, is there any other questions?
Yeah, so Jenny was wondering about the average coach to student ratio.
On the high school side, the volunteer coaches we ask them to take 2 if they can, though we have folks that say, I'm really busy, I think I've only got capacity for 1, and we say that's fine. But I think 2 is the average. And then we have a handful of coaches too that will take more. If they do this professionally, for them, it's not as big of a lift, and so they say give me 3 or 4. But generally, it's just 2. And for the career coaching, it's just 1 at a time. So you would match with 1 student for 3 or 4 months. If you want to do it again for another round, then you would start again with another student.
Mm-hmm. Great. And so someone else, Jenny, actually is also asking whether you accept donations of devices. I assume that means like laptops and gear like that. Do you accept that?
Yeah, so actually I'm going to ask Louis if we accept this, because he works on our impact team and probably has a better sense of it. We have taken some donations in the past, and sometimes it's hard to make them useful if they're not coming with like an operating system installed in it. And so we haven't always had the capacity to work with the device, but I would turn it over to Louis actually and get his input on this.
Great question. Now, as far as inventory and accepting donations, as you said, we have accepted them in the past. And that's it. I don't see why not. I don't see why not. I don't know. Because you mentioned earlier about the student needing a laptop in this time, needing the emergency funds for a laptop. I would imagine that's not the only student potentially. So in a case scenario like that, we could play the middle person and distribute it to someone, a student in need. I can see that potentially happening.
Yeah.
Great. I wanted to mention a couple of other important things. If the viewers go in the answered part of the questions, in the question box, There's a link to ScholarMatch.org. You can go there and you can make a contribution to ScholarMatch if you wish. There's also a link to Manny's. Everyone, thanks again, Manny's. Manny and Sam and Jupiter for making this happen. And you should all become sponsors and friends of Manny's for doing this great work too. And then I think at your website, is that where people would go to volunteer too, Diana? ScholarMatch.org.
Yes. Yep, there's a tab called Get Involved, and that'll lead you through the sign up process where you can say if you which of the 2 coaching opportunities you're interested in or both, and then from there you'll get an email reply with the next steps.
Perfect. And also Noah's email address, if you missed it or if you're not seeing it on your screen there, is in that answered box. Dave's pointing to it right now. Perfect. I don't see any more.
There's a thing I wrote on the McSweeney's website today too that sort of summarizes everything in case people want it in text form.
Can I actually say something before we close?
Hi, Manny.
I wasn't supposed to. I'm back. I just want to take a second. I want to publicly thank Dave Eggers for just going so above and beyond the pale and contributing. You know, you contribute, Dave, to the world with your art and your writing, but to then throw yourself into social justice and making the world a better place, not just in writing, but in the work that your organizations do. You're really, I don't know if you know what the word mensch is, but you're a real mensch. and you're a true blue San Franciscan, and you make us proud. And I thank you on behalf of everyone, okay?
Well, I gotta say, all the work is Diana's and her team. When ScholarMatch started, it was just an idea, but her team is incredible. They're the ones that made a vague idea into something real and growing. And to attract the talent of somebody like Lewis to the team just means that they're at the top of the game, and they're really an 82% retention and graduation rate is just stunning. And so they're really the best in the field, and I hope everyone will check out the website and support the students at this most crucial time. But thank you, Manny, for existing and tightening the fabric of the city with everything you're doing at your restaurant. And Lewis, just to close off, you should just say what your connection to Manny's is.
Yeah, so a funny thing is, well, for one, as mentioned earlier, I grew up in the neighborhood, so it was great to have a coffee shop, a space like Manny's pop up. It quickly became my favorite coffee shop. But yeah, so the day I interviewed at ScholarMatch, I stopped at Manny's just to go over some notes, just to prep a bit, and I ran into Manny. He's like, "Hey, Lewis, what's going on?" I told him just prepping for an interview. He's like, "Do you want to practice now?" And I said, okay, sure. He quickly, threw some questions at me. He could tell I was nervous. He was like, "You want some tea?" He went and served me some tea. I was like, I was just already overwhelmed by the support and the care of Manny every time I walked in, even just before that. But Manny went in above and beyond when I was walking out. He stopped everybody that was on their laptops, everyone that was talking, everyone in the restaurant, like everyone. Lewis is about to go on an interview. Let's wish him luck. At the count of 3, everyone good luck. So yeah, Manny's just, from my experience, the way I experienced Manny, he's someone who does go above and beyond to let the community know that he's for them and for us.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Manny.
Lewis. Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
From my heart. Thanks, everyone. Thank you,
Good to be
Amanda.
here. Goodbye.
Bye.
Stay strong, everyone.